Hey everyone, Ryan from Ebike Escape, and in this video we're checking out the PNW Components Coast dropper post. What makes this seat post unique is not only is it a dropper post, but it also has suspension. So let's check it out. Before we get into all the details, if you are looking to purchase this suspension dropper post, be sure to check out the link in the description, as that helps support Ebike Escape and helps me continue to make videos like this one. I will also have a link to our electric bike accessories list, as well as our top e-bike brands page, and finally our electric bike discounts codes page, where we share recent deals on electric bikes. All right, so now let's talk about the PNW Components Coast. One of the reasons that I wanted to check out the PNW Components Coast is because I am a huge fan of suspension seat posts on electric bikes. I've featured numerous on this channel, as well as back at our website, ebikescape.com. So PNW Components was gracious enough to send me this coast so I could do some testing with it. And of course, one of the great things is not only does this offer suspension, but it is also a dropper post. Now, dropper posts are most commonly used on mountain bikes or out on the trails when you need to adjust your saddle height. Perhaps you're going down a steep incline, you want to lower that seat so you can get further back on your bike. But I think there's some use cases for a dropper post such as this one when it comes to electric bikes. One of the benefits will be increased confidence, because you can simply lower that seat at the push of the button, so perhaps you can easier get your feet flat-footed if you're coming to a stop. The other nice thing is you can set up an electric bike that's going to be easier to adjust for a variety of riders. You'll notice that we currently have this seat post on our Rad Power Bikes Rad Wagon. I actually did a recent video talking about how we are able to get suspension seat posts to work with this bike. But for our family, both my wife and I ride this bike. So instead of having to undo the quick release, we can simply raise and lower the seat to our liking. So it just makes it a little bit easier for us to adjust. So now let's get a closer look at the PNW Components Coast. I'll give you a closer look so you understand how this component works. Firstly, let's talk about cost. The PNW Components Coast dropper post comes in at $179, and then for externally mounted installations, which is going to be a wide variety of electric bikes, you'll need a loam lever, which I have installed here. And just looking at the seat post, I know it looks like we have a lot going on here, but that is because the Rad Power Bikes Rad Wagon comes with a telescoping seat post. So note that the actual seat post, the PNW Components Coast, is just this piece here that goes down into the frame. And then of course we have a quick release here and then a quick release here. So there's a little bit more adjustment with the Rad Power Bikes Rad Wagon. Now, it's important to note that the PNW Components Coast, compared to other suspension seat posts, does take a little bit more install because of course, the dropper functionality, being able to drop that seat and raise it up, because you do need to run a line along your bike externally. Likely, they do have internal options right up into the seat post right here. Now, I don't want to talk too much about installation because PNW Components does have a very helpful video on how to install the seat post with the loam lever, but you will need to run some cable, and you can see we have some zip ties located around the frame of the bike, so we could run the cable up to the front of the loam lever right here. And the other thing to keep in mind as it relates to install, particularly with electric bikes, is just to make sure that you have a good spot to install that lever. You can see here from the grip on our Rad Power Bikes Rad Wagon, I can easily reach the loam lever. So of course you can perhaps move some of the components around to make sure that you can make it work, but something to keep in mind. And one last thing, if you do decide to purchase this dropper post, you will need a high pressure pump. This is the shock pump made by Pro Bike Tool, and it is meant to go up to 400 PSI. Now, the adjustment range on the PNW Components Coast is between 200 and 300 PSI, which is much higher than you'll find on traditional bike pumps. So you'll definitely need a shock pump such as this one here. And it's very easy to adjust the pressure. There's actually a cap underneath your seat on the dropper post here. and you simply screw that shock pump on and pump it up to your desired air pressure. I'll put on the screen the recommended PSI levels based on your weight. So how does a dropper seat post actually work? I'll actually hit the lever here and I'm gonna push down on the seat, simulating some body weight. That'll get the seat into its lowest position. So now that the seat is in its lowest position, I can hop on the bike just like I normally would. And with the seat lower, this is where the accessibility comes into play. It's going to be a little bit easier for you to get on your electric bike. So now that I'm on the bike, I can get into a position where I want to ride. And so if I hit the loam lever, the seat is going to stop when it hits my body at the position that I am standing at. So if I simply hit the loam lever, the seat's going to raise and I can sit on it. Now, of course, one of the nice things is the accessibility. So if I need to come to a stop or I find it's easier to get off my electric bike with the seat in its lowest position, I can simply hit the loam lever and that seat's going to drop down nice and easily. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the great things is if you have multiple people riding the same electric bike, having that loam lever to adjust the seat height is really nice. I took some footage of both my wife and I hopping on the seat post, and you'll notice we didn't have to undo a quick release to raise and lower the seat post because, of course, you have that nice loam lever which will adjust the seat to the proper height that you're standing at. Next, I want to talk about the Coast suspension. The company states that this has 40 millimeters of travel, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, you put air in this, so it is an air suspension, which is much different than you'll find with many suspension seat posts. And my wife and I have both been riding this electric bike around, taking it over some bumps, and I think the conclusion that we've come to is compared to some of the spring suspension seat posts that we have reviewed, the air suspension does provide some comfort when going over larger bumps, but it doesn't seem to soak up as many as the small bumps. Perhaps if you're riding on a smoother road. The other spring suspension seat posts that I have reviewed are very sensitive to bumps on the road, so you can feel it more when you're going over minor bumps. Now, this is either a pro or a con depending on the way you look at it. Some people prefer that the suspension only engages when you go over larger bumps, so that's something to consider. And of course, one of the main benefits of the Coast dropper post is not only do you get that suspension, but you also get the dropper functionality. So something to think about if you're looking at various suspension seat posts for your electric bike. Now, it was a bit tricky to get footage of the Coast in action, but here's me going off a curb and you can get an idea of how the seat post performs. If you keep in mind that this seat post will soak up larger bumps, then you won't be disappointed. This is certainly a well-made product and differentiates itself from other suspension seat posts on the market today with its dropper functionality. All right, I hope you found this video helpful. A huge shout out to PNW Components for making this video possible by sending me a Coast so we could check it out. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'd be very curious what you think of a suspension dropper post. Again, links in the description to this product, our electric bike accessories list, our top e-bike brands page, and our electric bike discounts code page. Really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.